Have you ever thought to think for 1 second that you could be negatively shaping the identity of your children by how you respond to their emotions of anger? Anger is just a signal, really. Anger is information. And we want to be careful that we don't wrap our children's identity in being the kid that's angry and being the kid that has a temper. You know, when you see an emotion and your words begin to describe that emotion and your child hears it over and over and over again, what you're doing is programming their subconscious mind. You're programming, you're shaping their paradigm of how they're going to see themselves. They're going to develop a self-image of being the angry kid, and eventually they'll accept it. And they'll accept it as their identity, and that's who they are. And then they become powerless to change it. And that's one of the dangers of not digging deeper. That's one of the dangers of not being fundamentally sound and having a fundamental level of understanding of emotions yourself. Because if you knew anger was most of the time a secondary emotion, you would understand that my child is not angry. He's angry. He's feeling more. He or she is feeling more. There's something else that's going on. So this is what I encourage you to do. Learn how to diagnose. Here's the thing. If you see a light come on your dashboard, an engine light, you're not going to rip out the dashboard and take the light out, are you? No. You're going to take it to the proper place and allow them to give you the proper diagnosis so that you can know exactly what you need to do. Well, parents, you are that person. You don't necessarily have to take your kids to a therapist. You can learn simple skills that can help your kids work through some of the things that can become a barrier later on as an adult. You must diagnose. But here's when you diagnose. You diagnose after they have learned to cool down. You diagnose after they've learned to regulate their emotions. In that moment when they're angry, their nervous system is now flooded. Their cortisol levels are high. Their bodies are experiencing a fight or flight response. This is when you teach them how to begin to regulate their emotions. You know, one thing that my wife and I, we taught our kids is how to sit down and get in a posture of control where they put their hands together and they cross their legs so they won't flail all around, because that's not a position or posture of control. We taught them how to get in a posture of control, and we taught them how to begin to breathe, because in breathing, it begins to stimulate the parasympathetic nervous system, and it begins to help them calm themselves down and get control of their emotions. And it's in this place, when they've learned to regulate, when they've successfully regulated, that we can say, tell me about what's going on. What are you feeling? What happened? When did you start feeling this way? And as we begin to peel back the layers, because we go into this knowing that anger is a secondary emotion. So as we begin to peel back the layers, we begin to discover what's really going on. And then we have the opportunity to talk to them about it and to teach them how they should respond. Imagine your kid just lost a baseball game and they're walking off of the field and they throw their hat down violently and they're upset, and they don't go by and shake the player's hand once it's over. They're demonstrating what looks like anger, but what they're really feeling inside is disappointment. What they really may be feeling inside is shame because of the loss they just experienced. You know, I can remember sometimes my kids, one would wake up earlier than the other, and they may walk in the room and they see their older sibling eating a snack or watching television, and they realize that my older sibling got an opportunity to enjoy some good things before I did, or more than I did. And they may they may express this emotion of anger, frustration. They begin to cry. Why? Is it because they're really angry, or is it because they feel left out? Parents, we have to begin to diagnose what our children are experiencing so that we can help them. We can help them transition and mature as adults. Here's my challenge for you this week. You know, I came across an interesting post of another group that is talking about emotional intelligence in children. And it was so interesting there was a pinwheel that they had a child blowing. And there was a picture of a child blowing a pinwheel. And I think this is an excellent way, practical way of teaching your children how to breathe properly. Because sometimes children have a hard time understanding. Breathe in through your nose, breathe out through your mouth. But utilizing a pinwheel or blowing out birthday candles is an excellent way to begin to teach them. So this week, when your child experiencing, when you see your child experiencing the emotion of anger, don't jump to conclusion. Don't think that they're just an angry child or they have a quick temper. No. I want you to diagnose. I want you to dig deeper. But first, help them get a position, a posture of control, and then walk them through breathing. Go to the dollar store, buy a pinwheel, and guess what? You may need to use it first, so you can get your emotions under control, so that you can help them get their emotions under control. I want you to remember this, parents, that even though anger may be the loudest emotion, it's not always the deepest emotion. It's not always the deepest emotion. And when we help children begin to understand what's underneath anger, we're not just solving today's problem, but we're solving a problem, or we're preventing a problem from existing as they become adults. Every emotional moment is an opportunity to teach, connect, and grow. Better conversations build stronger families.